Hey, Spectrum or Demon Alliance, it's me, Spectrum here. In this video, I am combining the 7 Deadly Sins and 7 Naruto characters. In this video, I combined Meliodas and Naruto, then King and Sasuke, followed by Bon and Rock Lee. That was after I did Diane and Sakura. I then combined Kakashi and Gother. I then combined Sadande and Merlin. Then I finally did Might Guy and Escanor. And since all that is going to be pretty long, and this is a Fusionverse video, I'm only doing this one video and no continuation because it's just this one story. But I might make one continuation, just throwing some other parts and continuing a little bit of the story and throwing for more information and doing more characters. But that's a slight possibility because Hinata and Elizabeth. But there's no mid-vid interruption because of how long this video is going to be. Now let's roll intro and get into this video. Let's go. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. I'm here to tell you of the team known as the 7 Deadly Sins from a village known as the Hidden Leaf Sin Village. This village has 7 main families, well technically 6. One is not able to use any senjutsu, but are able to use something called Tai Senjutsu. And the first one we're looking at is someone who is pretty well versed in the art of the Wrath Kurama Jutsu. Technically, he is a demon in of himself, son of the Demon King. This guy is known as Noro Leodos. He is known to be a very vicious fighter on the battlefield and in training, but anywhere else he's kind of a major goofball. And his girlfriend, he is kind of a perv to her, but not to the point she's very uncomfortable. Just a little unnerved, but other than that, he's a nice guy. He has some permanent like collar-like thing going around his neck, and he has 2 parts coming off that actually act like extra tails. Well, technically extra limbs, and then you can actually sprout 9 of them from his back to create little tails. Hence the name the Kurama, because that's known as the fox demon. And beyond that, his strength is enhanced, and he has a form called the Sage of 6 Wraths, because there have been 6 there's only 6 people are able to use this ability every time. So, and they're all there's only 6 creatures around that are labeled to use it, and one of them is always a human. And whenever he's in that form, he's able to use the abilities of them. And all those 6 things are always alive except for one. The human version, who is somehow related to the person of Wrath. And in that form, he looks very powerful and very demonic in nature. The next one is a good sparring buddy of his, and a personal rival, known as Harley K. This guy has the eyes known as the Slothful Sharingan. What it allows him to do is his eyes turn into a regular Sharingan, but looking at opponents can make them pretty tired and lazy, mostly able to fall down and just lay there being lazy. general. But do not let that fool you. He is still a very powerful fighter. Besides the fact, the reason why I say do not let that fool you, the thing is what I'm referring to is his childlike appearance. But in reality, he, like I stated, is a very powerful fighter. He is able to summon a katana out of thin air. So, yeah. And they are rivals because of the fact, one time, younger, they didn't really get along at all. So, there was that. Now, this is a little story of how they met the next one of their team, known as Diane Ura. This story goes like, they were traveling through the woods, bickering with each other, saying, we've gotten lost, and stuff like that. They soon ran into a girl who was actually a giant. She was outcasted, and actually later she was explaining why she was in the forest after they confronted her and asking why she's in the forest alone. And she is a giantess. She has the ability, but also the ability to control her height. She introduced herself later in a tavern as Dianora, and she's a giantess with the sin of envy. They were shocked but also happy because they said, we actually the two of the seven deadly sins member ourselves. I'm the sin of wrath, said Noro, and I'm the sin of sloth, said Haruka. She said, usually people are scared of me and call me a monster and a freak. She said, and I wear these gloves in order to, I just really like fighting. But I'm also able to summon a warhammer. Soon enough, Haruka and Diane fell in love. And multiple years later, they got married and had a child. But that was years off. Now, let's go to the next one. The next one is a very good friend and teacher to Noro Leados. He is known as Bon Lee. His teacher was part of the family that could do Tai Senjutsu. His sin is the sin of greed. It allows him to be very sneaky and stuff like that, but other than that, it's not really a whole lot. So he learned Tai Senjutsu in order to enhance his abilities further. He also learned of an ability known as the 8 Sinful Gates, which improve his physical abilities even further, but the cost at the 8th gate is him pretty much summoning and turning into an animal, but he always has a very high likelihood of dying because of that form. It's just pure power. So he refrains from using that form unless it's a dire circumstance. He also was chained up in a prison because he was a criminal for a time, and a very old one at that. You see, he drank from the fountain of youth that granted him his immortality. So, yeah, he was chained up as a prison and no one went near him because he didn't really need food or water to survive. So he grew a beard and became a shriveled up old man. Soon, Noro found him after venturing around for a while. He found him chained up. He challenged him to, after freeing him, he challenged him to a fight that he would have to join his team and be his teacher if he won. But if Bon Lee won, he can be free and do whatever he wants. Bon Lee, thinking that Naruto was just an average kid, said, okay, and accepted his fight. And he proceeded to utterly get his arse handed him practically on a silver platter. At one point, Naruto actually cut off his butt and threw it right back at him. He regenerated that, but afterwards. It really disturbed the people around them but they were impressed from the fighting skills that they saw that they had. Now, the next one is actually mistaken for a girl at times, but it's actually a dude. This one is known as Goshi. Goshi was another teacher of Naruto's. He was his main teacher, while as Mon Lee was more or less a friend and a teacher. He has the ability to summon armor and shoot lightning from his hands. He is pretty shy at times, but he is kind of a peeping Tom. Naruto's literally caught him peeping on his girlfriend a few times. Let's just say Goshi did not have a fun time later. You see, his sin was the goat sin of lust. So it made perfect sense, but that he was a pervert a little. But that was actually because of his armor he can summon. That was the main ability of his. Other than that, he's just an average ninja, but he's very skillful in throwing daggers and throwing knives very accurately. The next one was the sin of gluttony. She is actually known as Merlin. Give me 1 second. Was known as Merlin. Sorry, I'm having a hard time pronouncing the name. She was the sin of gluttony. And she was one of the 4 family members. She was one of the top ones because of her abilities. She is relatively powerless, but a very skilled fighter. And due to that, she was actually the member of the Hokage. These people are in charge of looking over the village in general. And she is known as the gluttonous Hokage because of her abilities and her sin. She only agreed to be part of Naruto's team on the count that they were full of relatively powerful people and they can earn a lot of money and get her a lot of food. She is a very big glutton and she really likes to eat. They didn't really care because they already had Daira, who also would like to eat a lot. They called Daira useless as a joke, but they soon learned that her abilities were just dormant. A few years later, she literally gained supernatural strength that was beyond her average giant. And the way they found that out was when the gluttonous Hokage was getting into a fight with Daira over her Daira not being relatively useless to them. She was like, "You're just useless. Just leave the team." That really pissed off Daira, and she punched her square in the chest, sending her flying through 5 or 50 trees. It's been a while, and they say they don't really have any memories of that fight. They soon learned that she was actually relatively useful, but she didn't really care being called useless because she knew that they weren't really being serious. They were just kidding around with her, unlike her past bullies. The final member of his team, of Melodious' team, is known as Might Akor. When Bon Lee saw who they were meeting, he said, "That's my master." They were impressed because this guy looked relatively young. He said, "I am way older than Bon Lee." And also, how you been, Bon Lee? He said, "Good. I'm having a teacher. That's little guy," pointing to Naruto. He said, "Holy cow, you you lost to a squirt." Naruto literally just leapt up and punched Midakor straight into the gut and sent him flying through a few walls, saying, "Call me that again, and I will end you." So and the little tails start to appear. He said, and Midakor said, "You want a little fight, huh? If I win, Bon Lee can go and do whatever he wants, and I don't have to do jack squat or even look at you again." And Melio and Naruto said, "And if I win, you can join my team and then do whatever you want." And then he said, "Agreed." His taijutsu is the same, but he also had the ability to summon something called a cruel sun. His sin was the sin of pride, so his ego was relatively big, and was the reason why he was challenged. He challenged him to the fight. Later on, he got his butt handed to him yet again, and all of these members were coming together for one reason: to defeat Naruto's father. They each launched their attack 5 years later, after getting more close, and they proceeded to utterly annihilate him, and then proceeded to lock away his soul in a specially made jail cell. This jail cell was specially made from Naruto and his fiancée, who was his girlfriend originally. The reason being was because Naruto's father wanted him killed. The person they lost in the fight was actually Midakor. He later got revived as a nearly full demon from Naruto because he felt sad for losing a good friend of his. I really hope y'all like this video, so please like it so it can be boosted out there. And that's all the time I got for today's video. So until next time, subscribe to Joe's Backstorm or Demos Alliance. Goodbye and peace out, everyone.